that don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get in the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hi guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful and talented co-host.
Hi, JD.
Melissa. How are you?
Great.
Good. I'm glad glad we're here. We're knocking out some batch content today. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to an agent that's here in our local market that specializes with working with investors and has a pretty impressive resume. Everybody, please let me introduce you to January Johnson. She's a real estate agent with the Short Term Shop, EXP brokerage. January, thank you so much for coming on our show and finding time for us today.
I am honored to be asked. Thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, you know, we obviously know you, and I know Melissa and you have had some run-ins in the real estate side.
Run-ins. Have we had run-ins, Melissa?
No, not at all.
They fist fighted in the parking lot.
Over short-term rentals.
But for those in our audience who maybe don't know the Short Term Shop or maybe haven't got to know you yet, can you give us a rundown of who you are, what you're doing, and where you're at now?
Yes, absolutely. So the Short Term Shop is an EXP brokered team. We are a multi-state team. We are currently in 19 markets across the country. We are in established vacation rental markets. Nothing dicey, nothing like, well, I don't know what the regulations are here. Things that have long been, friendly to short-term rental property investors. And our founder is the author of the book Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. Her name is Avery Carl, and she started in the Smokies as an agent and quickly decided that she should specialize in. Actually, she started in the Smokies as a customer, and then she became an agent, and then decided that she should start a team. So our Smokies team is pretty big. And then the second market was Emerald Coast. Mm-hmm. So we specialize in working with short-term rental property investors. And she has a huge marketing machine, and we have 3 Facebook groups. And our specialty is we teach people how to self-manage their properties once they have it. So they buy with us, but we support them before, during, and after the sale, long after the sale. As a matter of fact, today I was just coaching somebody about, so they've got their listing all set up and they got a booking request, and she was like, what do I do? Do I ask them for money now? I'm like, no, it's all handled. So I'm here for the whole empire, not just for the one sale, and I also have short-term rental property myself. And most of our team does. So it's helpful that we are on both sides of the transaction on that.
Yeah, for sure. That's super helpful. I'm just curious. So is the Smokies do better than Emerald Coast for numbers wise, correct?
Well, the Smokies is in a unique position because basically half of it burned down not too long ago. I mean, a lot of it burned down. And so they've been building it back, and they continue to build. So there's a lot of room for growth in the Smokies. And we have maybe 20 agents there. We have 50 agents on our team, give or take a couple, depends on the day of the week. But but we definitely have a big market there, and that is our largest market.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, there's a whole bunch of things that we can talk about and directions to go, but what I'm interested in is when you're bringing short-term rental investor clients on board, what are some of the things that they're unsure about, don't know? What is some advice that you would give somebody who's just starting out and maybe find you on BiggerPockets or wherever and are looking for short-term rentals? What's that conversation look like?
So a lot of people are confused about HOAs. They hear HOA and what they hear is angry collection of owners that are going to kick you out or make your grass be an inch tall or, whatever. They hear the traditional interpretation of HOA. So I have to explain, no, we just mean what's the fee that you pay for your amenities? And yes, there is an owners group, but it's not like that. We're not going to all of a sudden rise up and decide short-term rentals are not, viable here. I mean, I have to explain this is our economy. I have to put people at ease about that because they've heard a lot of bad stories and they've heard a lot of, they're afraid. The other thing is I do a lot of explaining, what's the difference between a condo and a townhouse or a single family from the perspective of financing, from the perspective of expenses, management, appreciation, all of those things. And so we talk a lot about property types. We talk a lot about insurance in the state of Florida, and so those are some of the biggest things. And then they also want to know what's the best neighborhood. And I have to also explain that, I cover the whole Emerald Coast from Panama City Beach to Navarre Beach. We also have a specialist in Pensacola, but I don't cover that part. It's a little too far. So I have to explain that it's all great. It's all a little different. It's got a little vibe, but there's not a bad neighborhood necessarily. Although there's a little bit on the West End that's still coming around. But as far as bad neighborhood or bad place to buy, I wouldn't say that. So we talk a little about that and, expenses and things like that.
Absolutely. So your typical client, I'm sure, is very similar to us, an out-of-state investor looking for a short-term rental in this market that they can also vacation at. One of the things that we're running into is not only do they want the perfect on the beach property, but they want it to cash on cash return 50%, and they want to have zero to no down payment. What does that conversation look like when somebody from outside of our market is coming in here with some sort of, or, what are their expectations? And then how do you reframe those expectations?
That's a great question. So yeah, we get a lot of people who there's kind of two camps. There's the camp that's heard 2 podcasts and now think they're an expert and subject to financing and want to come in here and throw around terms that they don't really understand. And then there's another camp that has been in analysis paralysis for so long that they haven't made a move and they're scared to death. Yep. And so I talk about what their goals are. There's some people who, look, they really just want a vacation home, and it's great that somebody else can help pay that mortgage payment, and they don't really care if it cash flows. Mm-hmm. There's some people who come in with, well, I'm only going to buy property if it's a 25% cash on cash and this, that, and the other thing. And so I have to explain, well, these numbers can be manipulated. I mean, you can put down less money and get more cash on cash. It's all kind of a shell game with numbers. And so we talk about that too. Well, I do not run numbers for clients. I don't take responsibility for that. I can't possibly know what all of their goals are, what all of their terms are, but I do look over their numbers. So when they run a spreadsheet, they've got, a calculator, whatever, and they send it to me, I will look over and say, okay, your taxes are way too low. Your insurance, you haven't thought about that. Your electricity is way too high. I will help guide them in the right range for their expenses. And then I also refer them to other vendors. So I have on my website, I have lenders and inspectors and insurance brokers and handymen and all the people that they're going to need. And of course, I don't get anything for referring people. I just do a lot of business with these people, and I know that they're good people, and they work as hard as I do and as you do. And so I'm happy to refer them, and I come with those resources that can help let people know that it's not just me. We have a team. There's a team behind me. You're going to create your own team. Here's some people you might want to have on that team. And I just listen. I do a lot of listening. I do a lot of note taking. I'm fortunate enough to need and use a very robust CRM, which I never did before when I first started in real estate. I was just hoping one day I would have enough clients to have that. But I try to keep enough good notes and really help people, just meet them where they are. But yeah, most of my people, everybody's out of state. First of all, everybody's out of town. They may already have 1 or 2 short-term rentals. Most of them are fairly new at the whole thing. And, but I do have some repeat buyers as well. And I own short-term rentals myself. So I understand how, to come at that and when to tell people you don't need to worry about this, or here's what you need to be concerned about. And so I have that whole perspective there. But yeah, it's mostly the analysis paralysis. If I can get them off analysis paralysis to make offers, then we're rolling, we're doing good.
Absolutely. I really like that. So the other thing that I'm really interested in is what is your daily activities look like, but most importantly, what are you doing for lead gen? Are you receiving a lot of inbound marketing? Are you doing outbound marketing? What does that look like? I think that's relevant, one, not only to the agents that listen to our podcast, but the investors.
So I'm very fortunate, of course, to be on the Short-Term Shop, which has a huge marketing machine built into it, but they're rooted in Bigger Pockets. I just got back from the Bigger Pockets conference. My CEO and her husband, so they have a podcast called The Short-Term Show, or she does, and he has a podcast called The Short Terminal Management Show. And so they are already big personalities, and we have a big social media presence. So a lot of people come from that direction. Mm-hmm. I personally am also very active on Bigger Pockets. I have a profile there. I've been on there for years. I was on there before I came to the Short-Term Shop, but I wasn't super active. And not a lot of agents know about Bigger Pockets. I mean, I say, do you know about Bigger Pockets? No, like, what is that? Yeah. And if you're just interested in investing for your own sake, it's a fabulous wealth of resources in anything related to real estate investing. So I encourage everybody to be on there, even if you feel like you aren't qualified yet to answer questions, or you're not confident yet, or maybe you don't have any investments, but you're learning as an agent. So you're not supposed to be salesy on there. That's the whole thing. I mean, you can have a membership that's about classified sales or classified ads, but they will take your post or your comment down if you're self-promoting. They'll take it down in a heartbeat. But I just go on there to try to answer people's questions. And, I make some posts of my own, but I comment on a lot of other people's posts to give them advice and help, or to sometimes to refute things that other people have said, because sometimes there's misinformation on there. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll try to be really polite about it instead of like, oh, you're wrong. It's like, well, maybe that this is my experience or whatever. So I think Bigger Pockets is a great place. I get a lot of organic activity that way. I did buy leads on Bigger Pockets for a while, but, because I specialize in short-term rental property investing, that really narrows my focus in a good way for me, because I am not one of these realtors, and no offense to people who are. I understand people are hungry and scrappy and they need to do whatever they need to do, but I'm not a person who's going to say, call me for all your real estate needs. I'm like, no, please don't call me for all your real estate needs. I'm terrible at land. I'm not a commercial realtor. I don't know about multifamily. Don't call me for those things. I'm not good at those things. You want to call me for short-term rental property investing? I do some primary homes, in the book of business that I had before. I'm happy to list your property as well, but really my specialty is this. So I try to stay in my lane and really, really get into that focus area. So that's really where I get most of my people, is Bigger Pockets, and of course my Short-Term Shop, and word of mouth. People refer me, they're happy with my service, and then they refer me to other people.
Yeah, I do think that's huge. One of the things Melissa says is, you want to know what the best school district is? I can't help you. If you want to know where you're going to cash flow, we can make that work. But what I've noticed is the agents that are doing the best are not I can do everything. They're going deep in one niche or one strategy and really putting a lot of effort and focus into that. So I'm glad to hear that's the way you're operating also. Okay, now, if you don't mind, would you share with us maybe some information about your personal investments, how you found them, when you got them, and what they're doing, what they look like now?
Absolutely, yes. So I grew up here in Panama City. I moved away when I was 15 because my parents got divorced, and I moved to California to live with my dad. And I was never coming back to this tiny little town, although my family has been here since the 30s. My grandfather was the first optometrist in this town, and Jan Cooley Drive is actually my aunt. And so, I'm named for her. So I have roots in this town. And I'd always come back to town, multiple times a year, at least Christmas and summer. And my mother still lives in the same house I grew up in, which is 5 houses down from where I live now. And so in 2014, well, for several years, me and a girlfriend and a guy friend of mine who used to live here, we grew up together. We would come back every summer, and we would rent a place and hang out with our friends and, just come back to town and do the beach thing. And then in 2014, I met a brother of a friend of mine. And I said, I didn't grow up with him because he was a little bit older than us. And so I said, what part of town do you live in? And he said, I live in St. Andrews. And I said, oh, I love St. Andrews. I said, I've always wanted to have a little house over there. And I grew up just on the outskirts of St. Andrews. So it's just right down the street. And he said, yeah, it's walkable to a lot of really great restaurants and bars. And I thought, it really is. So I got home from my trip here and I started looking online, and within 4 days I found a property that I thought, this is pretty good, and so I was going to buy myself a vacation home, which is what I did. So I bought a little duplex, or half of a duplex, if you want to think of it that way, on West 10th Street. And I got a really good price on it. And I just used it as my vacation home. And I had been an Airbnb guest for several years, but I didn't even think about owning, and being a host or anything. So a couple of months later, my broker, a person who became my broker, she was a childhood friend, she said, hey, we have a travel nurse who would like a place to stay, and we do rentals, but we only do 6 months and longer. Would you think about renting your place? I think you could get about $1,000 a month. And I thought, I bet I could do better than that. But I thought, sure. So I took on this travel nurse, and she did not end up staying. She got homesick and went home. But I thought, okay, this is cool. I'm going to put this on Airbnb and see how I do. And the first year I made $10,000 just not even knowing what the hell I was doing. And I mean, and I used it a lot. I gave it away to friends a lot, and so then I got serious about it. And, that was 2015. So I'm one of the longest running, if not the longest running Airbnb host in the whole city of Panama City. And all my friends in town said, what do you mean you have a vacation rental in town? You know how we call Panama City
in town.
And I said, oh, you people don't know what you have here. This St. Andrews, this is cool. This is really great. And when I started, there were 4 of us. There was one guy at the Landmark Condominiums who was renting his condo against the HOA rules. That is the angry HOA people.
Yeah.
And then there were 2 people that had boats in the St. Andrews Marina, and me. And that's all I knew about. And as far as I know, I'm the only one of those 4 that are still standing. And so that's my first one. And I just got better and better at it. And I did this before there was all of the hosting software and the price labs and the dynamic pricing and the channel managers and, all of the boot camps and all that. I just stumbled my way through and figured it out. And then I moved here in 2016. And in 2017, I bought my second property that has 2 units in it. So it's a front house and a back house, still in the St. Andrews area or on the outskirts of St. Andrews. And then last year, 2022, I finally closed on the B side of the A side property that I originally bought. I'd been after that lady for years and years to buy it, and it was in terrible shape. And she kept telling me, oh, I have somebody that's going to buy it, and they'll buy it in the condition it's in. And I thought, girl, I've been through Hurricane Michael and put my house back together. I'm not scared of that. I'll buy it in the condition it's in. So I finally, one day, I just wrote her an offer. I'm like, I'm a realtor. I'm just going to write an offer. So I wrote an offer and I drove it over to her new house where she was living. And I just made her an offer. And so we agreed on a price, and then I gutted it to the studs and rebuilt it back, all brand new, everything. And it's full of murals. It's beautiful. So now I have 3 mortgages, but 4 doors. So I have 4 Airbnb properties.
That's
awesome. Yeah, that's really great. And when you are talking to clients and people who are thinking about getting into short-term rentals, and they're, that's the biggest question. One of the biggest questions we get is, hey, how do you manage it? Do you have a good property manager? We always recommend that people manage it themselves if they can. Once you get 5, 6, maybe more than that, start thinking about offloading it. But at least with that first one, manage it yourself. You have any tips, tricks, or pointers for those people who are on the verge, but they're not sure if they want to manage it themselves?
Yes, absolutely. So that's the other thing, is that the short-term shop specializes in, we teach you how to manage your own property. We teach you how to keep that 25% or 18 or 20 or 25% in your pocket, because you really can't cash flow if you're paying somebody 25%, if that's your goal to cash flow. So I tell people that all you need is a keypad lock on the door and a good housekeeper, and you can rule the planet.
Yep.
Because you don't have to have the tech stack right now. You don't need all that at first. People get really bogged down. If I can move them past the analysis paralysis to where they buy a property, then their next paralysis is, oh my gosh, what technology do I need? And I need all the, and you don't. You can do it. You can add that as you go. You can build on that. But really, that's what you need. If you've got a good lock on the door and a good housekeeper. When I started out, a lot of housekeepers didn't have smartphones and they couldn't take pictures of things. And so it was really difficult, they would call me and they would say, well, the guests trashed this place. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Can you send me pictures? No, I don't have a phone that does that. I'm like, I can't charge people if you can't show me the damage, but really that's all you need. And so, I come with recommendations, but now if you have an Airbnb listing, Airbnb has local host groups. And so I'm a moderator for our Panama City to Tallahassee Airbnb Facebook group. And you can go on there. If you have an Airbnb listing, you can join the group. It's a closed group and you can get hyper local assistance. You can get recommendations for cleaners or handymen or any of those people. You can ask all your, dumb or complicated questions about whatever it is, and nobody's going to make fun of you or laugh at you. They're very collegial. We're very helpful. And so I encourage anybody, no matter where you are, if you have an Airbnb property, if you have an Airbnb listing, there are hundreds and hundreds of these local Facebook groups all over the world. And I definitely recommend that people join that. Did I answer your question? I just kind of rambled.
Yeah, no, that's
great.
perfect. Yeah, that's
Okay, good.
Exactly the kind of advice that we would give. Well, January, I'm super grateful that you were able to find some time for us today. If somebody in our audience wanted to find out more about you or more about the short-term shop, where should we send them?
Okay, great. Thank you. My website is my name, januaryjohnson.realtor. And if you go to my website, it's a client support website, but you can see what I'm about and you can see my background, and there'll be a really annoying pop-up that will come up. And if you want to schedule a call with me, you can do that. You can schedule at your convenience. My email is january@theshorttermshop.com. And you can look and see what we're all about at theshorttermshop.com or The Short Term Show or any of our social media.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.